fourth, somewhere between a fourth and a third, 25 to 30 of them, never even got the tags off. I would just buy 4 or 5 every season because I needed to have stuff. How silly. I used to feel that way in the recording studio, which is over there. I used to make sure I had, no, new stuff, I had to have that. And here's the thing I noticed later was that having the stuff made me feel or believe or think that something better was going to happen. The music was going to somehow be cooler or better because I had a piece of gear. Now there's a story, a funny story about that. Decades ago, when I lived in Phoenix and ran the Wizard Electric recording studio, it became the place in Phoenix to do, for singer-songwriters to go. And because I had a lot of keyboards, like 10, literally on racks and drum machines, and so I could help a singer-songwriter come in with their idea and turn it into an album, because I played keys and I was good and I had lots of different kinds. And so I could do that with them and write out chord charts and do all that stuff, whatever. So people would call the studio, regular business. I ran it out of my house, but I had a separate phone number and, ran a whole business. And I remember getting a call one day, and this wasn't uncommon, to get a call about my availability or capability or what kind of gear I had, that kind of stuff. And at the time, there was a certain kind of noise reduction. Now, this is before the digital age. This is when you were recording on 2-inch tape. Like, like a tape recorder. You see those tape recorders on spy shows and stuff. Well, the studio ones were big, wide. The tape sat on top. And, those great big rolls. It was 2 inches wide, 24 tracks. And every tape machine in the world has a noise floor. Way down there, minus 70, minus 80 dB, a little bit of noise floor. And when digital came in, that was one of the things. Ooh, get rid of all that noise. And you did. But then digital brought its own set of problems, so don't get me started on analog and digital comparison. But anyway, so there was noise reduction gear that you could use right on the inputs and outputs. So the gear would treat the sound as it went on tape and then untreat it as it came off the tape. And the bottom line was it reduced the noise floor. And some people had, decades had been recorded without that. Many, many decades. That was probably in the early 90s that came out. So everything before that was all done without it, but whatever. So somebody called me up and asked me if I had a particular thing called SR Dolby. Now Dolby has been around, noise reduction, on tape, little cassette decks. Those of you that are old enough to remember cassette decks, forever. Dolby B and Dolby C were different frequency curves. But anyway, this was SR, spectral recording, SR Dolby. And it was the new hot thing. And I did not have it yet. And of course, eventually I did. But anyway, someone called me one day and all they asked is, hey, you got SR Dolby? And that's about the language. I don't know what accent that was. And I said, no, I don't. I have this and this. He interrupted me. He said, oh man, you ain't got SR Dolby? You ain't nothing. Click. Right? And so that's funny because it's the thing about having stuff, having a particular thing. And that person, who I never met, of course, had this idea that if that particular piece of gear wasn't there, all is lost. So that drove me, not alone, but eventually I got that, kind of noise reduction. And you know what? It didn't sound any better, noticeably, marginally, but it didn't change the world or cause the dark side of the moon to spin around so we could see it. The dark side of the moon's not actually dark, you know that. It's only dark because we never see it. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is success eventually feels empty. And I told the stories about what I had, all that stuff, because I used to live in the idea that if I had more stuff, I was cool. And it meant something about me. And of course, it doesn't. Achievement without purpose eventually becomes hollow. It's empty. For me, this went on in an extreme case. Now, I've met people worth tens of millions, even hundreds of millions. I know a few billionaires, like personally. I just had a Zoom call with one yesterday. And these people that I'm talking about are not the ones I'm describing here. But I have met people with many, 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 many millions of dollars who are still restless, seeking, uncertain, and not in a positive way. Because you and I, you can be at a certain level of accomplishment and feel like, there's more that I could do. In fact, there's more that I want to do. That's different than, oh man, I got to have that, because it fills a hole. So there's people that I know also that are very wealthy that are restless. So here's the truth, and take this in your heart today and see where it applies. And you don't have to have millions. It can happen and has happened at every single level of life. Money does remove financial stress. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does allow you to enjoy your favorite misery. Money buys access. It gets rid of insecurity, and it can get rid of scarcity. And it can get rid of insecurity, but it doesn't have to. Because there are people who have money that I know who are always worried about the next thing. Will it fall? Will it go away? Will the market? Will this? But you know what money doesn't do and never will do? It does not solve meaning. What we're all seeking in life is to be happy and to matter. We want to be loved and we want to give love. We are anxious to give and receive love. Money doesn't have anything to do with that. It does not solve meaning. So we have to eat, we have to have rent, and it's nice to have vacays and cars, whatever. But the attitude about it is what is killing you. Poison. I don't have enough. Scarcity, fear. You don't have to live that way. And I've never seen that feeling add one nickel to either my bank or any of my clients' banks. Now, sometimes when you get in a difficult situation, you work harder than you otherwise would, and you get in that, I got to get this done gear, and magic can happen. But that isn't the secret to a happy life. At some point, no matter how much you have, you ask. I know because I've done this. What the frick is all this for? Right? What? And that question cannot be answered by revenue. Think about that. The answer to that question is never on the other side of another million or even another billion. It's just not. So here's the thing I want you to take away from today. Purpose reorganizes the meaning and the feeling of success. When your own purpose enters the equation, money is just a resource. It's a fuel. The business, whether you work for someone else or have your own business, it's just a platform. See, the other way, business is, I got to do more, I got to get more clients or sell more stuff or get another promotion because I got to have more money because then I'll be able to, that I'll be happy when is a sure road to hell. Internally, emotionally, often with relationships, and certainly with happiness. Money is fuel. It's rocket fuel. But if it becomes more than that, it's a distraction. Business, whatever business you're in, becomes just a platform to love and to serve. And the whole life that you own just becomes service. I interviewed someone yesterday for a podcast that's coming out in May that was talking about their approach. And their approach was to decide ahead of time that they just are going to love whoever they meet. No preconditions. Don't even know them. I love them. They're a divine being. They have awesome stuff about them that I'm just waiting to discover. And then to participate in any interaction with that person in a loving, listening way, deeply. Listening. Without agenda, just to listen, to be with that person and to love them. And then to serve them. What does serve mean? It means to do something, whether it's to say or do or be or help, but to do something with no other design than to lift, bless, and to cause or offer that person a chance to feel valued, meaningful, and happy. The soul, the deepest part of us, doesn't want more success. It wants significance. And that doesn't come from cash. I love you. We'll see you tomorrow.